Hello, patron, and welcome back to my life. It's Writer Wednesday, where I give you tips and tricks on the art and the business of writing and tell you how I do what I do as an indie author. Today we're answering a question from R.F. Kacey, who asked how I got started in my writing career when I still had other things to juggle, and as a subset of that, how to deal with or reach an agreement with spouses or other family who may be supportive in theory, but not always in practice. First of all, a disclaimer, I am extremely fortunate in that my wife has always been 100% supportive of me, both in theory and in practice. So my advice on that aspect of things is somewhat limited, but I did have obligations I had to live up to even early in my career. And that is the key. As with everything else in our marriage, my wife and I had to sit down and figure out what was expected out of each of us and what we wanted to achieve and what we were going to uphold while we worked to achieve that. My number one goal was to write. Her number one goal was to spend time with our kids. Neither one of those things brought in money, at least initially. So she started a daycare out of our home and I started my freelance editing and formatting and other author services career. I worked freelance for 2.5 years before my books got up to the point of earning me a full-time income. And every single month of those 2.5 years, it was a tremendous struggle. Some months, I barely made as much money as I needed to contribute. Some months, I didn't make as much. Some months, very rarely, I made more than I was supposed to contribute. But every single month, I was working 60 or more hour weeks, and I was going on all kinds of weird schedules. I'd be on night schedule one week, and then half night schedule, and then day schedule again, and then sometimes I'd just like stay up for 2 days. And as for how I juggled the freelance work with the writing, the answer is that I did not do it particularly well. I'd have a really good freelance month, and then next month I'd write a ton, but I wouldn't make any money that month, and so next month I had to work twice as hard on the freelance. There wasn't a lot of structure or schedule to my life. I've always been really bad at setting that up and maintaining it, even though I know I'm more productive when I'm on a consistent schedule. The best and most productive times of my life have always been when I am working a set number of hours at the same time every day. Doesn't matter what those hours are, as long as they are there, and they are always there. So that's my best advice from when I was juggling things decently successfully, is that have those set hours every single day and stick to them. And the only reason I think I can really advocate for that, despite not being a great example of it for a couple of years there, and even more recently, although I'm a lot better at it now, is that that approach is what got me to the point where I was pretty sure I could turn this into a full-time thing. See, I didn't leave my job when I started writing. I was let go from my job. I was thrown into an uncertain and unstable income, and that is actually the main reason I wasn't able to maintain my schedule. And then it just became a bad habit. And I've said to a lot of people that for most artists, for most writers out there, I would recommend that they start building their author career while they hold a full-time job. Don't suddenly go out there and try and be a freelancer and like abandon the 9-to-5. When I had my last 9-to-5, I could only manage a couple of hours per day after the kids went to bed and before I went to sleep. But I did that every day, and that let me put books out at a consistent schedule. Not a super fast one, but a consistent one. And that got my income up to a few $100s per month. So I was thinking when I got let go from my job, oh my gosh, now that I can work 10 or 12 hours a day, I can increase my income by that much, and that'll be my full-time income. Yeah, that only works if you maintain your schedule, and in fact, I got to the point where I was more often than not doing less than an hour of work on my books per day. And what a surprise, the income shrank. So if you're starting down this road, it is good to start off with a conversation with your significant other or whoever else is going to be affected. This is what I want to do. In order to do it, I need to stick to it. I need to do a certain number of hours every single day. What hours can those be? Let's figure it out together. Then you set up your working time, whether it's after they've gone to bed or before they wake up in the morning, and you stick to that every single day. And then use the rest of your time as best you can. You still have a commute? Listen to podcasts or nonfiction audiobooks to teach you how to do what you're doing better. Please use some extra time to keep reading. Read. Learn how to write better by reading other people's good writing. And for God's sake, listen to and follow the free advice that is out there. The number of authors I know who are struggling, who do not have a website, who do not have an email list, who do not spend any money on advertising or even apply for BookBub ads, who get themselves terrible covers or who design their own covers. Well, okay, the designing your own covers bit is like, covers is hard. I understand. We can't all afford to pay for them. And if you are decently good, you can have covers that like won't kill your career. But some people just go with bad covers. Just bad, period, bad covers. And the authors only put out one book, or they put out books, multiple books, that vary wildly in genre or subject matter. Yes, the Sterling and Stone guys did that successfully. You know what else they did? They put out a book every few weeks, and they grew the fuck out of their email list. They also built their podcast, which had a bigger audience than any of their books or their email list, which resulted in a huge amount of word-of-mouth promotion from other authors. If you aren't doing these things, or literally any other piece of advice that every other successful indie author says to do, I have very little patience for people who do that and then complain that they are not successful yet. This is probably a tremendous failing on my part, but I have no desire to help those people. I'm like, if you won't take all of that great advice, why would I give you any more? Speaking of Sterling and Stone, one of the other things that can help you tremendously when you're in that early juggling phase of your career is being part of a community, or even better, having a mentor. I've said often before that I got my big break as an author simply by being a superfan of the self-publishing podcast. Even before I worked with Sterling and Stone, I was asking them questions, and I was on their little voicemail section of the podcast every week, and I was a guest on the podcast, and I had regular email conversations with Johnny and Sean. When I published, like, what was my big book at the time, Rebel Yell, they actually read it and gave me blurbs. And that was just because I was a huge superfan. I was in their face. They almost could not get rid of me, and they didn't want to because I was a fan. And that community helped me get started. It helped me feel less alone and isolated. It's very easy to feel super alone when you're just starting out and, you know, you're living with people who love you and want to support you, but they don't get it. Their show, Self-Publishing Podcast, was also a mentorship for me at the time because I literally just did whatever they were doing. Whatever they did, that's what I did with my books next. That's how I built my career, was just do what they're doing. That's no longer the case, and unfortunately, they don't talk about what they're doing in as much detail these days, so it's not something that you can like really do now, and you don't want to apply the tactics from 2 or 3 years ago either, except for the basic stuff like build your email list and all that sort of thing. But at that time, having that battle plan laid out for myself made my work time, which was limited, it made that much more effective and efficient. If you're figuring out what to do during the time you're supposed to be doing it, everything's just going to take you a lot longer. So step 1, find and be a part of a community and get a mentor if you possibly can. Step 2, have honest communication with your spouse or whoever and work out what both of you are trying to achieve, what you both need to contribute in order to, like, you know, contribute to your financial stability and all that sort of thing, and work out a solution that works for both of you. Step 3, put in the work. Every single day, consistently. Step 4, use all of the time outside your work to formulate and develop plans that are going to make your work hours more efficient. And then, keep going. Forever, or until you're a millionaire. Still waiting on that one. That's it for today, patron. A huge thank you to RF Kacey for this week's question. I think it was a good one, I hope. As always, if there's something that you want to see me talk about in these Writer Wednesday videos, or if there's something else that you want to see from me, please let me know in comments. This series exists so that I can help you with anything that you might be struggling with. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, as always, for your incredible support, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!